All right, so continuing off from last time, we went over actually a lot last time as well, right? The first time we went over topography. We had to take a look at it again. We took a look at stairs, some floors, some elevations, windows, doors, and all kinds of things that I've already loaded in for you previously. However, we're going to put a roof on this guy. We're going to go over some more details, a little bit of structure, maybe some beams, um, and see where we go from there. We'll probably get some furniture as well, maybe a handrail or two, and really just start talking about what we can do in this program. I don't know. I really like my clipping mask. I think I showed that last time. That you can, of course, in any view that's three-dimensional, you can go to the extents part, go to section box, click it, and immediately kind of get that section cut view. What's kind of nice about that is you can kind of get two, right? So you can get like two section cuts of your piece, or just completely cut it out. So I mean that is pretty nice and definitely useful in construction when you're trying to explain or communicate a certain aspect of your building or its three-dimensionality. But to continue on today, I think we're just about ready to put on a roof and continue. We'll also talk about the final requirements for the digital submission, not this Thursday, but next Thursday. That's obviously the very last date and technically our final day, right? Or our finals day, as it said. But just to continue on, let's talk about the roof. So I'm going to go to my architecture tab. I'm going to go ahead and go to roof. And I can basically just start going into a drawing mode. By default, it's going to basically pick one of those levels. And it'll actually tell you, so the base level right now is on my roof level, and that's pretty good. To be fair, I could put it on the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, and as you can see, it'll basically start that roof drawing at that location. To be fair, you can also change this as well, so not really a big deal where you draw it. For the sake of this Revit tutorial, I think I'm going to actually do a couple of things to make a roof, just to kind of show you that, well, you can do a lot of different things with the roof. We can basically just select the line itself, right? So I'm basically just selecting the roof. You can do it that way. Very often I actually draw sort of freehand, kind of just a roof around things. So maybe I have an awning here. And to be fair, usually we have some sort of overhang with our roofs. So very often I'm kind of drawing on the outside of the wall. Maybe I have a flat roof in certain sections. But the first thing you should maybe kind of notice is that the roof, at least in this case for tutorial, is drawn all in one piece, right? It's not sort of these separate pieces or anything of that situation. Or, like if I was in Rhino, I might make a really complex or crazy roof, and it would actually maybe be 3 or 4 pieces that I'm kind of overlapping to make it look like it's together. In Revit, that is not the case. Remember, its end goal is construction. So very often it wants sort of figured out pieces and things like that. But if we hit the check mark, you can kind of see what it does at first. And first error, it says, hey, you got this overextended line. That's not going to work for me, and that's fine. Obviously, I'll use TR or trim and get that solidified. But once I hit it, it's going to be like, okay, is that what you meant? Well, kind of. It's actually probably off in the middle of nowhere. There it is. And as you can see, my level is definitely way too high. Let's go ahead and end it maybe at the 3rd level. So instead of the roof base level, I'm going to choose 3rd floor. And that's looking a little bit better. Honestly, pretty sad. That is pretty sad, right? I mean, there's really no such thing as a flat roof in architecture anyway. As you guys know, we need to shed water in some form or fashion. But to be fair, Revit does kind of have a very unique way of making roofs or producing roofs. For instance, it takes these lines and turns them into a slope situation or not. So for instance, all of these could potentially define slope. So for instance, let's say I took all of them, right? And I made them define slope. By default, it usually goes into a 9 inches. So I'm going to go with like say 2 inches just to kind of show you what it does. And right away, you may see your cookie cutter house, right? Yeah, it does all the work for you, right? Based on entirely those slopes. And if I actually further click on the roof, I can even change the slope, right? Now, obviously, it's only going to do things that are honestly physically possible, right? But technically, If I was making a house, it would be pretty easy to make a cookie cutter KB home house. I'm not gonna lie to you, especially when it comes to roof design, where to be fair, it's kind of doing all the work for me. I'm simply changing the heights of, say, these ridges, and it's simply figuring it out to the best of its ability. Now that's cool, but it's honestly gonna get you thrown out of architectural studio, right? Don't show it in any architectural studio, because it'll basically be laughed out the door. And I say that with the kindest heart, right? Because I've definitely seen it happen. I mean, the studio professor just couldn't hold himself. I mean, literally crying, like, get out of my studio that you think this is a good roof. However, to be fair, in a practical situation, we do use it, however, all the time in practice. But we use it sparingly. So in my case, maybe I wanted to make, I don't know, maybe a shed roof, make it a little simpler. And I'm going to actually just use one of these to define my slope, and you can see what that does immediately. So I'm going to maybe use 3 inches, pretty defined slope. And as you can see, bam. Even just changing one of those lines controlled the rest of them. Keep in mind that it's a parametric design software. So if I change one of these things, in my case, it's actually going to change all of them, right? It's actually looking pretty good for what I want. And maybe for my studio house, maybe I want some sort of clear story with some windows at the top and things like that. So definitely not too bad. Maybe not as a dramatic slope though. That's actually looking pretty good for me and not too shabby. The next thing that we can do is actually take all of our walls. In our case, I accidentally got some stairs in there. So again, make sure that I just get my walls. And in my case, I'll see this button that says attach top or attach to a base, or detach top or detach base. In my case, as you can see, I want to fill in that blue part, and you can kind of see from the little animation that it gives, that is definitely the button I want. I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and like magic, I know, I make it look too easy, but it's basically done the quote-unquote wire cut or extending or Boolean difference or Boolean split that we normally have to do in Rhinoceros, but pretty close. Now to be fair, I could double click and dial in some of these attributes as well, and normally I do in my practice, right? So for instance, I'll take the exterior of the wall and the line itself, and very typically my overhangs I like to do at 24 inches for some nice dramatic effect. And on the side typically I'll do which is known as the hip, usually about 12 inches. So don't get me wrong, I'm hitting DI to get my dimension line. DI, DI, DI. And again, I'm kind of getting all of those. What's kind of nice about the dimension line inside of the drawing process is that it doesn't show up when I'm completely finished. But again, I want to have 3-foot overhangs on the actual sloped parts and just a 12-inch hip. But again, I want to dial it in correctly. I want to choose actual foot increments. After all, somebody is going to have to build this, usually if it comes from Revit. So again, as you can see, I'm using really the shortcut keys really quickly here. Right, I'm just tapping on the line and changing its dimension. Now, you'll notice if you want to change actually what you're referring to, it's known as a reference line. Right, so if I click, you'll see that it turns blue. But say I didn't want this exact line and that I wanted something actually particularly close to it. Obviously I can get really close, as you can see. But if I hit tab, the key tab, it'll actually flip in between those different reference points. I don't actually have that situation here, but if I run into it again, I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. Of course, I'm just going back and forth between escape and hitting DI for dimension. So again, dialing those in, that one probably doesn't have to have a huge overhang now that I think about it. Let's actually go with 24 inches here. So again, I can still fix things too. TR, you can take that piece and that piece, done. So we've already simplified our overhang a little bit. But again, I'm clicking on the line that I want to change, and I could drag it as well. That's not the most accurate, but it can be done that way. So again, 24 inches on the overhang and 12 inches on the hips. Maybe learning some new terms today. That's always good too. But we've dialed it in. Let's go ahead and hit check mark. And we're good to go, right? Obviously a little bit better, right? It's nothing to write home about, you know, in terms of roofs go, I guess. And as you can see, I accidentally got rid of my slope. So let's go ahead and put that back. Define slope. And let's go ahead and make that 3 inches. Pretty good. It's a bit much. Maybe we take that down a little bit. That's looking pretty good. Not too shabby. Let's get some structure on there. Let's get some fascia boards. Let's finish this roof up nicely. So first things first, if I know I'm going to structure the entire roof, well, I don't want to do that all over again. So in fact, I'm going to take my sketch and copy it. So Command C and go ahead and exit. It's kind of a cheat code if you ask me. Nobody ever taught me this. It's just something I kind of figured out along the way. But I'm going to set my reference plane to my bottom surface there. And since it's angled, I do need to set it. So I'll go to set, pick a plane, press OK. And I'll make sure to pick that plane that's my bottom soffit plane. Sweet, nailed it. And I know that I nailed it because it's now activated as blue. I'll go over to structure. I'll go to beam system. Sweet, it wants me to sketch. Awesome, I'll just paste in my previous sketch. Paste and enter. Oh, sorry. When you paste in Revit, you have to hit 0 for some reason. I'm not really sure why. But yes, you'll have to hit 0, enter. Again, I'm not really sure why, to be completely honest with you. But it does look like it's about in the right spot, but it doesn't. It looks like it kind of put it in the wrong spot. Let's maybe go to a top view and try again. Alright, that's a little bit better. And as you can see, it's trying to find the exact point that you copied from. So in my case, usually if I type in 0, it's okay. It does look a little bit off though, so I'm going to go ahead and move it. Cool. I'll take the whole thing and I'll just use my arrows to dial it in a little bit better. Not a big deal. But that's looking pretty good. We'll go ahead and press check. And it's going to be like, oh man, beam direction not specified. That's okay. I do want the rafters to go the right direction, so I'm going to pick one that is in the right direction. Press check mark. And voila, it made all the structure for me. Mostly because I've loaded it in already for you. But in many cases, you know, I would have had to model that out one piece at a time, and bam, I just got all my rafters just like that. To be fair, it works like a whole system though. So if I click on it and dial it in, right, if I want certain parts to extend, I can. It's going to stay within that drawing parameter. So when I hit check mark, just like that, it's going to, well, in some cases, kind of just magically model it, right? Of course, I've loaded this in for you guys. So if you click on the beam system itself, I've loaded a beam type for you, which is, it is called something kind of funky, dimensional lumber recovery 2x6. And to be fair, you could honestly change those as well. So if I go to edit type, again, I could load in, I want them 24 inches. I mean, don't do that because it's going to look crazy, but technically you can model things. It's just very differently in Revit. It's all parameterized. And again, not going to lie, that looks kind of cool in a very postmodern way, but definitely not what I want today. So I'm going to edit, undo that. But again, we can change our pieces, but that's not really what's important for this project, guys. Keep that in mind. I really just want to see that you're attempting to make something in this program, however crazy or chaotic that might be. It is your first attempt in Revit, and I'd be absolutely lying to you if I said my stuff was beautiful. The first time I worked in Revit, it was definitely not. In fact, one of the first time I touched Revit was in high school, and I remade the Villa Savoie by Le Corbusier. I ended up winning first place and best in state, but it did look absolutely awful. I still have it actually. It doesn't open up actually in these new Revits because it was before Autodesk actually bought it. But yeah, story for another day. If I can find some imagery, I might pull that up on Thursday. But let's continue the conversation. I don't know, this window situation, let's say it was good, and maybe I wanted to copy that to the very top. So I'm going to hold Option in my case, or sorry, Control. It's a little different on Windows. I can go ahead and copy that. I'm going to go to my view. I'm going to make sure that I don't have that wall. I accidentally have that wall. So again, I'm going to take out my structural beams and my roofs. All I did was click. Now in Revit, the what do you call it tool is amazing. The filter tool. So if you accidentally get something that you don't want, you can click on filter and make sure that you just got the things that you do want. And I will say filter definitely works a lot better in Revit than it does Rhinoceros. I'm going to hit CC. Again, I don't know who made these, but CC is a copy command. So immediately I can copy something. And as long as I'm in a perfect view, and what I mean by perfect view, guys, is really our view box. Those are known as kind of the perfect views. You can draw in those views, and you can copy in those views. To be fair, if you're like right here, doesn't copy so well. Be very careful about the way you copy something, right? But in my case, it made a lot of sense just because the windows are looking pretty good. And to be fair, if I do want something kind of special, I could. So for instance, maybe I want some really, man, I just want windows that go from the bottom to the very top. And I could definitely do that. So I'm going to go to Edit Type. Now to be fair, I don't know if I could manufacture a window that way, but that's a problem for another day. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate. And I'm going to make basically a new family, or sorry, a new type of window in this family of fixed windows. So in my case, I don't know, maybe that's a really, really big window. I'm going to go with maybe 60 inches by, gosh, I don't know, 560 inches. Let's just see what that looks like. After all, I could change it. But let's say the height is 560 inches. It's going to automatically convert it to 76 feet. Yeah, I already know that's way too big. So let's, I don't know, go with a 12-foot window. That at least seems somewhat doable by a 6-foot window. And to be fair, we could probably rename this as well. So that way we are in at least the ballpark here. Let's go with 6 feet by 12 feet. And let's just say that's our new window that we wanted. I'm going to change the dimensions from 12 and 6-foot width. And go ahead and press OK. And voila! Without changing all the other windows, it's going to give me a nice big window. And to be fair, I can still actually move it around, and it's going to automatically cut that hole, if you will, in the wall that we needed. Yeah, I'm going to kind of, maybe this is my postmodern house for today. And I don't know, I kind of like that situation with the window. It's kind of a really big window. It's got a Bob Ross kind of feel to it. I like it. I also don't like the fact that these windows are kind of looking at it. I kind of want it to be special, so I'm going to go ahead and delete those as well. I don't know. Obviously, maybe my studio room is definitely just about that corner. And as you can see, I'm still kind of clearly designing my house. But it looks like we've got some structure. Let's get some fascia boards on there, right? And go over something maybe a little bit more advanced. For instance, I can't have a rafter kind of floating in the middle of the air like that. So to be fair, when I make something in a system, Revit automatically pins it, P-I-N, to the system itself, and you'll see that I can unpin something. So again, sometimes that unpin is really hard to find. However, you'll see that you can click on an object, but when you try and move it, it's like, hey, you can't move this pinned element. What are you, crazy? And for good reason, right? Because, well, if I change that system, notice what happens. Again, I'll double click on that beam system. I'll move my drawing line, and to be fair, it's going to move and recalculate all of those beams. So to be fair, maybe I don't want to do that, and maybe I just want to move this single beam. So I'm going to either unpin it or type in up. I know it's super weird. I'm going to type in up. I'm going to go to a perfect view, and I'm going to use my arrows to basically dial that in. To be fair, that's actually more or less how it would actually be constructed, is sort of half inside of the exterior facade and half outside of it. To be fair, it's about as close as you can get to reality there, right, in terms of a construction situation. To be fair, I would actually do that with all of these, right, because again, this is kind of the space where all the spiders are going to make their webs, and those are honestly the things I worry about sometimes when I'm especially making a residential house in the middle of nowhere, where all those things are definitely going to happen. but I'm going to move my fascia, or sorry, my rafter, as close as I can to that exterior wall. And yeah, that would be the tried and true way. And much, again, some of this stuff you're just going to learn in construction class or construction 4 or construction 3 when you get to your master's program. But to be fair, in Revit, again, Revit assumes that we already know how to make and draw a building. So again, sometimes not the case in our second year at SAC. But let's get a fascia board on there. So let's go to architecture, go to my roof, get a fascia board on there. I'm pretty sure I've actually loaded one for you already. Yep, sure did. I don't know, I like kind of the realisticness. So in my case, I'm clicking on the exterior piece and you'll see that it's actually turning and putting those together for us. Sometimes. Sometimes not. That's okay too. Pretty good. Just a little bit of the finer details, right? And definitely makes it look a little bit more realistic in terms of the construction. Not too shabby though, we're getting pretty close. Next thing, maybe furniture, and just really some other things that I know I've probably missed. Let's go over how to get furniture in here, and go over to BIM object. I know we've gone over BIM object for rhinoceros, but BIM object, and we should have no problem. Now, let me go, actually, I haven't signed into this account and I don't know the password, so I'm just gonna go to my Macintosh side and go to BIM object, where I know my password is saved and I will have no issue signing in. So of course we do have to log in. Oh man. Not the password. Okay, well let's do this real quick. Go with Crispy Piece. Yes, I accept you taking my data and making money off of me. Oh my god. Do I really have to just give you money? You know, that's what they do with all that information, right? They literally just sell it to the guy who's selling you stuff. Anyway, let's make sure that we're in the right software. So in our case, we definitely want to be in Revit, and a large majority of the stuff on BIM object is really for Revit, and from what I've noticed. But let's get some furniture in there. You know, I haven't loaded everything. You may have noticed I did actually a couple of things, like a bed, some chairs, because some of that stuff can be kind of hard to find. And we might need some labels. Obviously, we want to identify our studio room, our kitchen, and really maybe start thinking about modeling some of the more intricate details that usually we don't get to in architecture. After all, keep in mind it's a construction document. So very often we do put the furniture. We get down to the circulation. We'll even put egress. We'll even put the mechanical, plumbing, electricity, where the dang switches are, everything. And to be fair, you usually don't get into that kind of stuff until you start working or interning at a firm. But to be fair, this is exactly why they use Revit at those firms. Is because, in my opinion, Revit is basically a catalog. It's a catalog model maker. Now, I know that's probably oversimplifying it, but I mean, think about it. What we're doing is essentially putting models into a larger category model and then producing drawings from it. So anyway, let's get some furniture. I don't know. Let's go with the couch. For some reason, it just occurred. You ever do that? You're like about to spell a word and you forget how to spell it real quick? Holy crap. How do you spell couch? It's like lost me. Is it couch? There we go. Yeah, and so to be fair, I do not want anybody sitting there and modeling a damn couch. To be fair, my goodness. What a unique way to look like I'm doing a bunch of work in studio by, oh, that money shot I'm working on. Now again, I'm not going to put furniture in my entire rhinoceros model, or my Revit model in this case. But like say I was doing a money shot in studio, couldn't I just load the furniture that I want to show and render with the furniture in there and do all the work for me? instead of sitting there and drawing every single little thing. Especially if I'm going for a particular style. I mean, if I'm doing a home, I mean, shoot, look at that thing. Alphabet sofa? Yes, please, right? But essentially, I'd go to download. And to be fair, there's a lot of different Revit files you may notice. The one that we actually want is the one that just says Revit. Don't accidentally get AutoCAD, even though, yeah, it will open in Revit. And by the way, even SketchUp is sometimes enacted because, again, those files will open in Revit. But we want the one that just says Revit, not necessarily the family catalog either. But to be fair, sometimes the Revit catalog does have actually, like, say this manufacturer has like 8 different couches, but they're called under this model, right? Usually that family file has all 8 couches, but again, that might be a little much, and you may just want the chair, right? So make sure you get the actual Revit. I'm going to go ahead and download, make sure it's in my downloads, and we'll go ahead and open it up in Revit. So in my case, my Windows and my Macintosh is actually put together. So first things first, I'm going to type in CM for component. I know, again, I don't know who makes these things, but I have loaded a couple of things for us, such as like a sink, both in 2D or like a shower. I both have a 3D sink and a 2D sink. Again, it depends what you're actually using it for. I can't tell you, I've never rendered a bathroom, right? I've never had a client who was like, oh man, or a studio professor that was like, oh man, I really want to see the bathrooms, guys. No, that has never happened. Even in my master's program, like we drew a bathroom, we drew an ADA bathroom. We drew actually a couple of ADA bathrooms in Revit, but we have definitely never had to model or render them. So again, 2-dimensional stuff still works great in Revit and is often definitely used at firms. Some firms prefer digital models and some prefer 2-dimensional models. So again, it is a lot of preference. I put some TVs in there, of course, a water closet, a little under the sink fridge, you know, some stuff that I found useful over time. I'm not sure why I left that there. Oh, it's a urinal. Yeah, so you can get a pretty cool urinal, some pendant lights, and as you can see, I mean, if it doesn't have a category in Revit, it goes into the component file, as you can see. I mean, you've got like everything in here: electronics, furniture, very miscellaneous things like a fan. Is it furniture? Is it electronic? I don't know. It's both, right? And so you definitely have a lot of different things in here, such as the lights, countertops, contemporary furniture. Again, a bed. So I mean, some of that stuff, we just click on it, and you'll see that it immediately populates. If I hit spacebar, you know, it's going to automatically rotate it for us, all kinds of things. So I don't know about you, but this is my lower level. I don't think I should put the bed right where the kitchen is. So I'm thinking my kitchen goes in here. And to be fair, I can draw stuff real quick, such as DL, which stands for a detail line. And to be fair, I can kind of like sketch it out first. And what's kind of nice is it gives me the dimension lines too. And that could be really helpful, especially if, you know, I'm working with a client, I'm drawing with them real quick. I can kind of get the countertop, if you will. To be fair though, if I do a component, the countertop I gave you, doesn't do an L shape, right? So I'm not gonna sit here and model a freaking countertop. I mean, don't get me wrong, even my employer is not gonna be paying me $55 an hour to make a countertop. I wanna do it as fast as possible. So in my case, what I've done, here's a secret trick you can take for the books, is actually make a floor and call it countertop, which you may have wondered why there's a countertop floor in there. And to be fair, just draw it, right? Shoot, my goodness, do not waste the time and the money sitting there drawing countertops, my friends, right? Because I just did it in 5 seconds, right? Obviously I can go to my rendered view, my 3-dimensional view. I can cut it up a little bit to see what happened. And as you can see, it may or may not be in the right spot. So maybe let's get to that back kitchen. And again, I love section cut just because of how intuitive and how fast it is. And as you can see, I don't see it. Oh wait, is it in the floor? Yes, yes it is. And I can't see it, so I'm gonna have to HH it real quick and hide it. I'm gonna have to go to my first floor, and usually countertops are 3 feet above the floor. So it's gonna automatically do that for us, and I'm gonna get my HH back by resetting my temporary. And voila, I've got a countertop. Now to be fair, again, nobody has ever asked me to do all the counters either. However, you may realize BIM Object has it all. I mean, shoot, countertops, and they do actually go by a lot of different names, be careful. But many are manufactured these days, and you can simply get a sink, all that stuff. Again, do not spend hours upon hours upon I actually had a student one time. It was for a studio project, and the project was a store, right? A very small store that sold crystals. And she decided that she was going to make the entire bathroom and a kitchen, even though this thing didn't even call for a kitchen. She decided to make an entire kitchen. I mean, she made the sink, the refrigerator, the countertops, the little toe cuts, everything, right? I mean, it practically looked like this image right here. And she goes, "Why did I fail the project?" And I go, "Because you made a kitchen instead of a store like I asked you." And it was probably a pretty good learning lesson for her. However, she was kind of stubborn. She literally went all the way to the dean and got into a different studio that weekend because she was just so upset that I told her and failed her for making a kitchen rather than making a studio like I requested. But to be fair, there is a lot of stuff, and she was an interior designer, so she did get lost in the sauce, as they say. But there is a lot of stuff in Revit, and a lot of catalog stuff to get lost. To be fair, you can also model it too by using different components. So I do want to throw that out there. And as you can see, we're starting to see some of the structure components of our design as well. And that's looking actually pretty good. To be fair, I still haven't gone over a lot of stuff like ceilings and things like that. But let's get some furniture in there. And for the sake of tutorial, again, think it out, use your sketches and where you plan these things to go. Obviously, that is not the case for me. Another website, however, not exactly foolproof. It does have viruses sometimes, so you do have to be careful. And it's possibly the slowest loading website for Revit there is, but it's called Revit City. And we're going to go ahead and let it load for a second because as you can see, oh wow, it got a little bit better. Let's see if the downloads folder got any better. Yeah, and as you can see, you click on downloads and it takes forever. So we'll let that load for a second. But what about a drafting table? I think you're going to find that some stuff doesn't exist in, unfortunately, BIM Object. And drafting table is definitely one of them. I've never come across. I always like to try every year just in case there is one. As you can see, we got tables galore. I mean, dang, we got a ping pong table on a beach for God's sake, but they don't have a drafting table. And as you can see, it's quite modern. And to be fair, a drafting table is no longer modern. To be fair, we can get pretty close, like a tilting table, things like that. To be fair, this is very worldly. You'll find brands in Japan, Germany, all over the place. So to be fair, a lot of it's in a different language as well. But you might not find necessarily a drafting table. However, dang, this one's like already ready to show me a drafting table. But for instance, I don't know, you're maybe making a studio in Revit and maybe you want that big large scale printer. Maybe you want that drafting table. Maybe you want a Wacom tablet. Go to Revit City. Revit City is actually one that where it's all user based. So there's even stuff that I've made in there. But again, that being said, the model doesn't always work, and it maybe isn't always the best model either. So let's type in drafting table again and see what we come up with. But as you can see, it's the world's slowest server, apparently, Revit City. So usually I go and do something else and let it load, to be completely honest with you, because as you can see, it takes a little while. And actually we have quite a few drafting tables. Look at that. We got a drafting table with a lamp. We got a cool modern drafting table. We got something that maybe looks actually more close to what we do. And to be fair, you do have to log in. I don't even know if I have a log anymore. I'm not going to sit here and find it. But Revit City is a good alternative as well. But be careful, not every single model works. So we'll keep that in mind. CM, just to kind of show you how to put stuff in there. I think I was putting a bed earlier. Let's maybe get a bed in there. I don't know about you, but I've always wanted a bed in studio. I just feel like it'd be so productive. Anyway, in my studio, I think eventually I'm going to have like a spiral stair come down into a bed situation. So I don't know, maybe I still want a wall. And of course I can still do those kinds of things. Obviously fake it till I make it. I can use my AL or Align tool. Oh, and here's a perfect situation where I may need to use tab. So let's see. Let's move that real quick. You'll notice when I create a wall, right, it kind of defaults and it puts stuff together, but it doesn't necessarily align stuff perfectly. And to be fair, as soon as I do something like this, it actually gets attached. So if I try to move it, it actually moves the whole wall, and you're like, what the, I don't want that. I don't want you to move the whole wall. I'm trying to align them. So I'll use AL, and I did this last time, but maybe I want to align it to this. Maybe I want to align it. Oh man, I'm trying to get that one line in there, and it won't find it. So if I hit tab, it'll actually scroll through all the available reference lines. So as you can see, I can scroll in there and find the right one. And then stick them together, and now they're together. I'll hit DR for door, and make a little door. Sweet. Now I've got a little bedroom, and I kind of want a spiral stair too, like I was just saying. So why not kind of cover the spiral stairs again? I know I'm kind of going left field, but I don't know. When inspiration strikes, you just got to go for it, right? And what's nice again is I can move these windows still. Of course, it's not going to move the one above this window, but I can dial that in as well. Let's get a spiral stair there. Again, inspiration struck, and I kind of want a spiral stair into my single bedroom. That'd be kind of nice. I'm not gonna lie. Kind of a game changer there. Probably need a bathroom, so gonna have to figure that out. But again, I didn't make a sketch. You hopefully did. But can we get a spiral stair? Yeah, spiral stair. To be fair, you could make those also in Revit, but they're never gonna look as nice as that. I mean, look at that guy. That is just beautiful. And again, I don't want you to sit there and model a stair, especially one as well, both of these actually look like they're both Revit files. I might need both of those, so I'm going to go ahead and download both. I'm going to go over to downloads, and I forgot to even show you how to put a component in. So again, even though it is a stair, if I go to the stair, it treats it not as, it wants me to draw something. It doesn't want me to load anything in. So it's actually a little tricky. What's kind of weird is that even though it's a spiral stair, it's technically a component. So I'll type in CM. If you need to find component, it's also in the architecture tab under component, right? Same thing. We'll go to load family because, well, those are those files that we just got. In my case, I'll go to my computer and make sure that I go to downloads. Mine's kind of weird. Sorry. Downloads. And again, find those Revit files that I just downloaded. There's that furniture sofa file. Let's get that in there. And you'll find that usually it has to update the model from a previous year. I don't even know if I can fit my, I've always wanted a couch in the kitchen too. So, this is just a day for first, I guess. But it immediately gives you the right size. Right, that's a game changer, and I know for most of us, especially if you've ever imported anything into Rhino, it's based on the unit measurement, not necessarily kind of this universality scale. So again, it's really nice to kind of see instantly how big a couch is per space, and to instantly go, hey, I need the wall a little bit bigger, done, right? And as you can see, not always, especially when it's accidentally connected to something else. But it's working out so far. Maybe I want my bed actually a little bit here. I don't know. I kind of do like the bed right up against the wall. Reminds me of my bachelor times. But let's see. What else could we put in there? The spiral stair that we just wanted. Cool. Let's get that in there. And it looks like it actually does want me to take it in as a stair. Let's see what's going on here. Let's go ahead and just open what it downloaded. So open. It didn't want me to load it as a CM file, otherwise it would have shown up in that load family. So I'm going to go back to my and I always lose this too. Downloads, and let's see if we can get that piece. Oh, I get why. It's stuck inside of a zip folder. We just need to open up that zip first. In my case, I just have to double click on it, and it turns it into an actual file. In some cases, you'll see that the RFA is the family file, and the RVT is the Revit file. So to be fair, what's kind of nice, it gave us both there. So I should be able to actually load in the family now. So let's try that again. CM. I'm going to go to load family, and there it is. Hopefully V-rail, spiral, and there it is. Again, it won't open if it can't open it. It'll literally give an error message that says, hey, you're in the wrong category, you can't do that. And as you can see, I'm glad I kind of downloaded it first, because holy crap, that's a large stair. But it's quite nice. I mean, look at that. Actually, technically it does fit. It's going to be a tight situation. I don't know. Let's see what it looks like. Fake it till you make it. Get my section cut out of there. Holy moly. Well, I'm not going to lie to you. It's one heck of a stair. And as you can see, a lot of it's actually done for us. Now, clearly it's not going to work, and I'd have to change some stuff, but at least you know how to get it in, and we already know how to make some stairs anyway. Last but not least, there are a couple things that we can do to make this look a little bit better, and it is a little bit advanced. I will say, relatively speaking, it would be best to actually just produce some views, right? So let's go ahead and do that first, because after all, my studio professor probably doesn't want to see that view. And I know I kind of maybe went over this last time, but you can produce cameras very differently than we do in Rhino. I know I maybe did it last time. I think we maybe made a digital view at the bottom, and that was pretty cool. We can also do it from the outside. And to be fair, you can make cameras in really any view, but I kind of want to get that outstanding exterior shot. So, I don't know, I'm going to take my view camera and get something a little bit outside. You'll notice that I can't really click on the outside, so that's why I was kind of opening up my crop view first, because I may want to stand out here. Again, I don't know why Revit can't seem to do that, but can't seem to do that. So camera, I'm going to stand out here and look towards my building. Good thing I know what a cone is now, thanks to Rhino. But I'm going to face my building and instantly produce a shot and further crop it. So again, I am looking for some exterior shots. I can always click on something. It's going to center my view just like I did last time. And I can dial that shot in pretty well. I can add some shade and shadow. Nicely done, just actually right at the bottom. Shadows off as right now, so I'm going to turn shadows on, and holy moly, that's some serious contrast going on. So I want to turn down the shadows and go to my graphic display options. I'm going to go down to lighting, or in my case shadows, right? Make sure shadows is going. I can change the background pretty immediately, maybe a gradient. I don't know, it's a pretty ugly, gross sky, so I'm going to make it a little bit more blue. There we go, that's looking nice. Some light blue there. Fade to a white. And my ground situation, we'll just make white. Nice. So we got an instant background, didn't have to go to Photoshop or anything Illustrator. And again, just very different, right? It's like everything's kind of like a weird setting panel. Let's go to my lighting. Honestly, here's the secret, all shadows 16. I don't know what it is, it's just kind of perfect. Go ahead and press apply, and voila, just like that. Didn't even have to put that bad boy in Illustrator or nothing. Pretty good. However, maybe I want something a little bit more realistic. I could probably just make 2D this or file export it, right? I could take the entire thing, or just take this entire view, export, and immediately a CAD format, right? So I can go right into a DWG. I know it doesn't make 2D per se, but I can make 2D, right, of this view. Essentially turn it into a CAD view, right? It's going to turn it into a CAD view. So I'm going to go ahead and save it as my oldest 2007 lines. I'm going to go ahead and put it on a desktop and just kind of show you that, well, technically I can open this back in Rhino, right? So new model. I'm going to go ahead and file, import, just kind of for the sake of instruction. Did I export it yet? Maybe I didn't. Close. I think I've exported it. There it is. Open. Open. And as you can see, I can get the whole dang model. Now, going back the other way around, a lot different, right? But, I mean, don't get me wrong, if I just need to make some topography real quick, make some topography real quick. Use the tools for what it's actually, good at. But nobody's, especially in studio, nobody's expecting you to be like, hey, did you do that all in Revit? Oh, you didn't do it all in Revit, therefore it's wrong, right? That is definitely not the case. Especially in my studios where I'm constantly pushing you to use all these tools, right? But again, what's really nice about this is I can further change, say, the material or the texture, right? We can go ahead and change the material. And to be fair, I think that's a little bit easier in Rhino, to be completely honest with you. So like metal, some paint, obviously I don't know, white metal is pretty cool. But to be fair, I think it's a lot easier to change things here than it is in here. However, last but not least, we can show you how to do something like that. But relatively speaking, this is what I'm looking for next week. And just to kind of go over it briefly, let's talk about the kind of final requirements. So as you guys notice on Miro, there's quite a few actually. A lot of it that I've actually already made for you. So a site plan, second floor, 2 sections, all the elevations, and 1 or 2 perspectives. So yeah, there's definitely a lot there, and even though this is kind of alluding to that, we're not necessarily going to get to an axon. However, you could technically figure it out yourself if you are so inclined. But let's go ahead and go to our sheets and just actually open up all of our sheets right now. So let's go ahead and close, obviously, what we don't need. We'll open up a couple sheets. Obviously, we got a roof plan in there, some sections, some perspectives, and a site plan. So first things first, I can actually directly put my views in there, right? Site plan, almost done actually, right? Obviously it's a little too big, so I need to change the scale to say, I don't know, let's try 110. Does 110 work? Nope. Let's try 1 to 20. Oh, that works, but it's kind of small. Does it work? Yeah, I guess, technically. And I know we kind of went over a few of the things about the sheets as well, so not too shabby. Of course, you'll notice that we have a sheet view, and I can't really do anything. It treats my view as a component. I'll have to actually double click on it to actually edit it, right, or further change anything. 120 is looking kind of small though. Let's go with 1/16. It's getting closer. 3/32. That might overdo it. However, maybe I want to rotate it. Totally can, but it is, again, super weird. If I hit RO, you'll notice nothing happens. I can't just like rotate the component, right? And if I delete it, it didn't actually delete it. It deletes it from the sheet, right? But if I want to rotate it, super weird. I'll double click. I'll click on the bounding box, and I'll rotate the bounding box, weirdly enough, the opposite direction that I want to go. So rotate. I'll go the opposite direction that I want to go. Literally, it goes the other way. I have no idea why, to be completely honest with you. Somebody explained it to me one time, and I was like, that's just the Japanese way. And I was like, but this isn't a Japanese program. Anyway, somebody's tried to explain it to me, but I've just gotten, of course, used to it. But it treats it like a component, and if you go back to the sheet, it's still the same orientation, right? So, again, not a big deal. But it does rotate the actual model. What I mean is it doesn't rotate the actual model, just the viewport itself. And that's definitely important because if I accidentally rotate the entire model, I could really mess up everything. So be extremely careful and use Command Z when necessary. However, floor plan, I may need to dial in some things. It looks like I've already got my floor plan somewhere. That's okay. Let's find out where. Looks like I already have it there. Oh, there it is. Right, so obviously it's just fell off the page a little bit. That's looking pretty good though. I still need to label some things, so I may need to do TX for some text. What's really nice is I can make text pretty quickly. I've even loaded some different sizes for you. Again, yes, literally all of that is controlled in Revit. So I've made some bigger text for you, just in case you want some god-awful text. Keep in mind there is no way to kind of like scale it or change it. It really is based off of the size of the text. So I've loaded, again, to make that a little bit easier for you guys. Again, CC, boom, studio, boom, kitchen, boom, stairs, entry. So again, looking for all those labels, and to be fair, I will say this program does make it pretty easy. Even if you accidentally forget to like capitalize all your text, you can right click, select similar, right? So select all instances in the entire project, or basically selecting all instances that are the same, right? So visible in view, it's going to grab all that text for me, and I can edit it all at once, right? So for instance, I can go to annotations. It looks like it actually changed text, and you can make them all capital. I just can't find the icon. Why? Here, I'll show what it looks like. Oh my god, there's an all capital icon, but I can't find it. Maybe it's a little different in 2025. That's okay. Usually the icon image will stay the same, but to be fair, they do kind of change location sometimes. Again, I don't know who runs this program, but they're a real jerk sometimes. Not gonna lie to you. To be fair, usually it's right here. Oh, there it is. But for some reason it's not enacted. Oh, remove last leader. That's not it, but it does look like it. Well, there is a button for all capital letters. I promise you, I'm not making it up. But why can't I find it? Is it manage maybe? Nope. View, collaborate. Usually it is in annotate, but I'm not seeming to find it. If you happen to see it before I do, point it out. Be a friend. But, not the end of the world too. It is a nice feature, but I mean, my goodness, just hold shift too. Not the end of the world if you can't find it. But my goodness, it really is gonna bug me. Gosh. Well, it is in 2024 right here. I don't know why they replaced it. It is kind of cool that you can remove leader lines now, and that is pretty cool too. I mean, we can add leaders all day. And to be fair, it is pretty handy to be able to do that, especially when you're doing a construction drawing. But again, not exactly what we need for today. What else do we need to cover? Maybe some blending modes, how to make a section. Yeah, that might be important. So I'm going to go to View. Pretty intuitive though. I'm going to go to Section, and I'm going to cut it in half. Simple. I'm going to do it again. I know, it's almost too easy in Revit. Bam. Even better, I can double click on this blue part, and it's even going to open up the view. Dang. Section already done. Now keep in mind there's no poche, and so we need to cover that a little bit. So I'm going to type in VG for visual graphics. I'm going to go and scroll all the way down to walls, and really you'll see that here is a list of every single category in existence in Revit. And in my case, I want to chop through some certain elements, such as the windows, the walls, the doors, anything. So I'm going to go ahead and hold Control, and I'm going to select everything I do want to cut through. So in my case, I want to make sure that I get structural framing, I want to make sure that I get the stairs, I want to make sure that I get the roofs, any ceilings, pipes, and again, a lot of stuff, right? As you can see, furniture maybe. You don't usually want to post-shade furniture, but I don't know. Maybe for the sake of tutorial, I do. And looking pretty good there. Keep in mind, I can always change this. I'm going to hold Control and click on where it says cut and the pattern of my cut. Right? I'm going to override that entire thing. And I'm going to make it solid. Press OK. Apply. And voila. Didn't have to do anything. Now, I know that's not as intuitive as like Illustrator or any of that, right? It's very different. To be fair, you can also click on an object in Revit and override the graphics as well by the element itself. The exact same thing, or the exact same options, honestly, viewed in a different way. So we'll go to surface pattern, solid fill. Oh, not surface pattern, sorry, my bad. We'll go to the cut pattern, solid fill, change the color, and again, keep in mind, this is built to kind of just do it once, not over and over like in Studio, where very often in Studio I'm doing this over and over. You guys know it just as much as I do. I'll select fine, just because as you can see in coarse, like you can't even see anything. Put it in fine, you can actually see some of the line work, the detail, things like that. But I'm going to go to my section, and now that I have my section view, go ahead and drag my section on there, and voila. You can see I got my section 2 and my section 1. I could probably either fit that on one page, to be fair. But again, I don't want some of this stuff, like the crop, and that is kind of small, especially for a section. Usually we do big sections, like say 1/2. Very often we'll take the entire page, especially for a construction document. I mean, this has got to be on the field, and fake it till I make it. It's got to get pretty close. Viewport, let's get a bigger viewport in there for us. To be fair, I can double click and I can change these as well. And as you can see, when in doubt, look for a blue dot, because a blue dot is how you change or manipulate something. As you can see, here's my DWG. Don't be afraid to click on something, right, Ellis? Don't be afraid to click on something to find out what it is, and immediately we find out that it's the DWG. I don't necessarily want to delete that, right? Maybe I just want to hide it. So override graphics in view by element, and invisible is the opposite of visible. So again, double click on the outside, and voila, I've got my sheet ready to go. Now, one of the most important parts that everybody usually hits me up for, I need to print these sheets out and put it on Miro for my final, right? Which is how we'll be presenting our final. In fact, I just want to kind of see your PDF, or you can put them in individual sheets as well. That would be fine. So let's go ahead and do that for today. Kind of a mock-up, if you will. None of my stuff is finished, but your stuff will be finished, nice and tidy. So I'll go to File, Export, not necessarily print. Well, actually, in my case, maybe I actually do want to print. Scratch that. Let's go ahead and print. In my case, I don't actually have a printer on here. I'll need to install some sort of PDF writer. In my case, I do have a default Microsoft Print to PDF, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that. I'm going to go over to Properties, make sure it's an ArcD, because I do need it to be a 24 by 36 piece of paper. And usually it's in there, usually Architecture D sheet. Man, we get our own sheet of paper. How cool is that? We'll go to ArcD, press OK. This is where it gets fancy. We'll want it to be centered to the page, 100% zoom. And again, you just kind of want to make sure that it's, again, ArcD or Architecture D. It's going to ask you to save those settings. Again, doesn't really matter. Next important part is we want to check the sheets. We don't want to do this over and over again. So we want to get all of our sheets. So floor plan, second floor, roof. Basically, I'm going to check all my sheets. I'm going to go ahead and press select. I'm going to make sure I combined all my multiple sheets and press OK. I'll save it somewhere I can find it. In this case, my desktop. I like how it just kind of maxes out on these things. It's like, you have no space, liar. Anyway, desktop, we'll go with Revit print test. I know we're a little over, but like I said, this one's going to be a little bit longer, capturing a lot of stuff in here. Obviously going over printing. And let's go ahead and take a look at that file. So we'll go to test print. I think it's actually in my documents. It's probably actually still printing. Print process can take a little while, at least for Revit, I've noticed. Get out of here. This is the problem of recording yourself while running two different OS systems. Get back in there. There we go. No. There we go. Revit test print. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like. And voila. That will be the PDF that you actually put. Of course, yours will be all finished. But you should see the extent of your entire title block. A dead giveaway, if you choose the wrong piece of paper, it'll be like this big. And you'll be like, man, where's the rest of it? Right? It will print to scale, no matter what. It'll print to the exact scale, regardless of the paper that you choose, which is kind of a nice thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. What's kind of cool about that is I could potentially print it on like 18 sheets of paper and kind of put them together, and that's really great for studio. However, again, as you guys know, these drawings are eventually put on the field. Somebody has to measure them and use them. And so by default, it's kind of helping us out. Like, hey, even if you accidentally got on a letter-sized piece, if they use it, it's going to be correct. So kind of saves us from messing up there. But like I said, guys, this is kind of the final attempt. Again, I'm not trying to completely teach you Revit in 3 days. In fact, I think it's actually quite impossible. I've been using Revit for 8 years now, and I still don't know everything about it. I do know a lot about it, but not everything. So to be fair, I'm not looking for everything either. But, you know, you said you might want a job, and you might want to be prepared for that question in the interview when they go, have you ever opened up Revit? And you can confidently say, yes, I have done a project in Revit. Now, they don't need to know that it was only 2 weeks in computer graphics. That's maybe not for the interview. That's after you got the job and you're kind of, you've already gotten pretty good at Revit, and you go, you know, actually, I've only worked this program for 2 weeks, but, you know, it was just to get my foot in the door. Anyway, any questions so far? Maybe something that I've skipped? Anything that comes to mind? Again, keep in mind this is the last video that we'll have for Revit. You can still contact me and everything like that, and obviously we still have a work day on Thursday to really dive into Revit. But if there's no questions, I think I will end it here for today. Yes, Manny? Say that again? Oh, they're already in that file. So if you have started, remember one of the first things that I said about starting this Revit file is that you want to use my template file. So you're going to have to go to Google, my Google Drive. You'll go to Revit, and you'll download one of these. They're honestly the same. This one will open up in 2023, and this one will open up in any any newer one, 2024, 2025, or 2026. But yeah, those are already preloaded inside there, Manny. Good question. But yeah, don't just do file start new, right? Don't go to file new, because you're gonna get something real crazy that's not really geared to what we're doing. Like I said, this is a construction document project. It's not really made for studio, even though a lot of students go, oh my god, it makes a section. Who gives a so does Rhino, right? In fact, it does it way better, in my opinion. A lot more useful anyway. Because to be fair, I can spend hours trying to get this. Man, I mean, pop a scale figure in here. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's just differences, right? This one wants a complete modeled finished product, whereas in Rhino it's a little bit open, just like Studio is. So there's definitely a reason to why we use certain programs at certain times. So anyway, but fake it till you make it. Nobody has to know that you use Revit to make a topography real quick, right? Nobody has to know that you made the model real quick in Revit and manipulated it in Rhino, or vice versa, right? Those kinds of things. Anyway, I'll end it for today. Any other questions, Manny? That was a good one.
Do you want any color on the side plan?
I don't mind it. Don't mind it at all. Yeah, because as you can see, we could easily change the colors, such as I actually worked for one of the first bosses I worked for. He went to UT, so he wanted everything section cut to be burnt orange. So he'd choose like kind of like that orange right there.
Why?
It was from UT. So all of his topography was orange on his construction documents. Clients loved it because they normally see really boring drawings. Now the printer people really hated it because normally they send it on a black and white drawing or a black and white printer, and they're like, son of, this guy wanted color. And usually the sets cost more because of it too. So I mean, keep that in mind. But yeah, you're more than welcome to use color. Absolutely. No other questions, guys? We'll end it there for today. And there was no break today, and I'm 14 minutes over, so more than well